Hello everybody, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different today. I'm going to go through Smash Up Disney. Now my copy has just arrived, as you can see, still sealed. I've generally steered clear of any spoilers to the Smash Up Disney stuff, so I'm not overly familiar with what each faction does. Obviously it's a starter set, so you get the 8 factions inside. I'm going to go over those 8 factions very briefly, let you know what I think of them, see what the power level's like of Smash Up Disney, and just generally see what it's like. I'm not a big Disney fan. I know some of the stuff that's in this one, like Lion King. I haven't seen some of the other stuff, like Frozen, so some of it will be familiar to me, some of it won't. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it. So as you can see, taking the cellophane off, so let's see what you get inside. Now we've got the rulebook, so I will go through this at some point to find out what's changed. I'm not aware of any significant changes to the game in terms of rules and things like that, but I'm sure it'll be in there. I'll put the box at the back there. So you get power counters, or wherever your VP counters. You also get base map breakpoint tokens, base map current total power tokens. On the back of these, they've got your +1s and +3s, which is new to the Disney, I believe. I don't think it's in Marvel. So yeah, double-sided power tokens and victory point tokens. You get a couple of sets of these. So you get the new base markers in Disney, and you use these to score. So you put space in the middle, and then you keep track of the power going around the outside using the tokens. I'm not a big fan of these. As you can see, they've got the different player where you're supposed to put your cards, but if you put your cards over there, it's going to block up the score path. So for me, dice work just fine, and I personally won't be using these, although it does come with a bit of a neat what you're supposed to do with them on the back. But yeah, it's fine. I suppose if it's your first time playing, at least it comes with something now to actually score the bases. That was a big problem with Smash Up, well, throughout its entire lifetime, is it doesn't come with anything to score the power on bases, so they've tried to address it. I won't be using them, but fair enough. So you've got your dividers, which also have the faction sort of descriptions on them with the complexity. I think this is fine. You know, it's a good inclusion into the game. I don't see why, the others don't have them. In terms of the quality of these, so I know there were some issues around the quality of the Marvel stuff, about dividers being thinner, different size to some of the normal ones, but they feel fine. They're sturdy enough, they're reasonably thick. I don't feel anything noticeable in terms of the quality of them. As you can see, they've got the descriptions, medium, low, medium. Generally things are medium in Disney, which is kind of what you'd expect for a starter faction, for a starter set rather. You get a spare empty bag, bases separately, so I'll go over these later. And then you've got your varying factions, so you've got 4 packs of these, so there's going to be 2 factions in each. So I'll put those to one side for now. And then there's plenty of room in the box. If you have just bought Disney and want to get maybe an expansion or 2, you'll be able to fit it all in this, just like the core set box basically. Plenty of room for an expansion or 2, but very soon you'll probably need the bigger box anyway. So we'll jump straight into the factions, and I'll just do this off screen just to make it a little bit easier for me in terms of taking this off. So in this one, it looks like we've got Aladdin, and the Aladdin deck can get cards you need, whether from your own deck and discard pile or from other players. Some cards give other kinds of help, extra plays, strength from palace guard, movement from carpet, and then wishes. Okay, so they're a medium to high complexity faction, so let's get the Aladdin cards, put them to one side. So we've got your power 2 minion, palace guard, talent, discard an action to place a +1 power counter on each of your palace cards here. So how many palace cards have we got? We've got 4 palace cards. So they're a swarm. They're a sort of swarm minion. You want to play them all in the same place or the same base, and discard an action to then buff the rest, all your palace cards. So fairly straightforward. There's nothing groundbreaking there, but it does kind of tell you the direction the faction's going in terms of discarding actions. So we've got a carpet, which looks like it's just a single minion. Talent, move this character and up to 2 of your other characters from here to another base, so it's the flying carpet, magic carpet thing, which transport your minions around. Power 1, which is interesting. I'll have to see what the power structure of the faction actually is, but yeah, that's quite an interesting power. Obviously very vulnerable to lots of different destruction effects, movement effects, any kind of disruptive effect. Power 1 is going to be very vulnerable. But basically you want to put this down and move your minions away somewhere and try and get some value from breaking a base by surprise. So, standalone minion there for that one. We've got another unique minion, Power 3. Place an action from your discard pile on top of your deck. So, that's fairly standard. Obviously you want to discard an action through your palace cards. Probably want to be doing that as many times as you can each turn to buff up their power, so getting your actions back is always a good thing. There are no bad cards in Smash Up, technically, apart from maybe Pupox, so there's never really a good card to discard with something like that. So being able to get your actions back or your other cards back is always going to be a benefit. And this one obviously lets you pick a specific action as well and put it back on top of your deck, so good recovery in terms of if you've got a particularly strong action that you want to get back and put it on top of your deck. So this is another unique Power 3 minion. So the Power 3 slots are 3 unique minions. So we've got Raja, talent, discard an action to give this character +2 power until the end of your turn. Before this base scores, you may use this character's talent. So you can get it to, if you use the talent, discarding action to get it to power 5, and then that's going to break the base. You can use it again to get it up to power 7 if you need to. So you can potentially see if other players have used specials. They're affecting that base, and then you can decide whether you need to use this again to get the additional power boost. So just a solid power 3 up to power 5 if you need it. I think that's, this is a fine minion. And a few talents so far, so we've got 4 different minion types, or 4 different minions, and 3 talents, so, always a potential partner for the Great Wolf Spirit. So we've got another unique minion in Power 4 Jasmine. Talent, discard an action to play an extra action. Okay, interesting. That you discard one of the things that you want to use in order to play it. So discarding an action to then play another action. So you need at least 2 actions in hand in order to get full value out of this. And this is going to be interesting because obviously there's going to be diminishing returns here in that you want to be using this talent to play extra actions, but then you don't want to discard your actions because then you're reducing the pool of cards that you have to actually use this talent. So, possibly quite balanced. We'll have to see what the actions are like, but yeah, I think that's quite reasonable. Obviously, extra action plays. We've seen talents for power so far, but we've not seen talent yet for playing extra actions, so that's quite different. And then we've got another unique minion. So, the Genie. Talent, search your deck and or discard pile for a copy of Wish, reveal it and place it into your hand, shuffle your deck if you've searched it. So, we'll obviously see what happens when we come to the wishes, but it lets you search your deck and or discard pile for a copy of Wish, which is very strong. Generally you want to be searching for your discard pile, just to get them back. However, in a pinch, each turn you can always get one from deck, and as soon as you use it from deck, assuming it goes to the discard pile, you can then just get it straight back. Or it could be a good target for some of these other minions, so discarding the Wish cards, using Genie to get the Wish back. So some good internal synergy here. So we'll come back to Genie when we see the wishes. And then finally you've got your King minion, you've got Aladdin. Search your deck and or discard pile for the lamp, reveal it and draw it. So I'm guessing the lamp's going to have something to do with the Genie. Shuffle your deck if you searched it. Talent, reveal cards from your deck until you reveal an action. Draw it and shuffle the rest into your deck. So again, really good synergy with Jasmine. Really good synergy with Palace Guard, good synergy with Raja if you need to discard the action for extra power, so just generally good synergy every single turn, being able to get that action. So a very, very strong card here. I assume the lamp will let you find the Genie, so on play you can immediately get the Genie, which then means you can start searching for wishes, and also you can start searching your deck every turn for an action. So it's just good, really good card draw as well. So very strong so far from what I've seen. So, looks like we've got the first wish, and actually there's 3 wishes, so if you have Genie in play, choose one effect and place this card into the box. Okay, that's really interesting, so we're starting to see more cards that reference the box. Up until now, it's only Viking Funeral and the Knights of the Round Table card, I can't remember which one, Holy Grail maybe, that let you return the card to the box for some kind of extra strong effect. And obviously, if you've seen my other video around Magicians, Custom Faction, that one utilised the box, and I'm glad to see that they're using the box more. It is a really interesting area in terms of Smash Up that really has been underutilised since it was introduced, so I'm glad to see this. So if you've got Genie in play, choose one effect and place this card into the box. Play 2 non-extra wish cards, so play 2 extra non-wish cards, sorry. Give a character +5 power until the end of the turn. Draw 4 cards. Wow, that is very, very strong. So the Genie is going to give you 3 wishes. The wishes are very, very good. Playing 2 extra cards, so that's actions or minions. Giving a character +5 power until the end of the turn. Very, very strong. And drawing 4 cards. Also very, very strong. So those are very, very good cards. And yeah, this is really the engine that, and the versatility that makes Aladdin going to be a very good partner for lots of different factions. You've got draw, power, and extra plays here, and 3 different cards, so very, very strong. You've got Jafar, who I believe is the bad guy in Aladdin. Each other player discards an action from the hand or reveals their hand to show it has no actions. You may play one of the discarded actions or an action from your hand as an extra action. So let me just make sure I've understood this one correctly. So each other player discards an action from their hand or reveals their hand to show it has no actions. You may play one of the discarded actions or an action from your hand as an extra action. So it's kind of like, sorry, I'm moving the camera there. It's kind of like the Wizard's card. I think it's Mass Enchantment, where you can discard the top card of, or reveal the top card of each player's deck. If it's an action, you get to choose to play one of those. So it gives you, it's just disruptive. It gives you access potentially to an action from another player's deck, which you wouldn't normally have access to. And in terms of, so they would get to decide which action you could potentially play with this card. So it's not absolutely, unbelievably strong. They could just discard something that has no value to you, and then that reduces the number of potential options that you have. But as a baseline minimum, you can always just play an extra action anyway from your hand, so a reasonable card. Street Rat, play an action from another player's discard pile as an extra action. So again, access to other players' cards can be very, very strong depending on what you're playing against. It's as strong as what you play against, basically. And most decks generally have at least one really good action that you want to be targeting with this. Obviously, if they know that you're playing Aladdin, they know you've got this card in your deck, so they're going to be familiar with what this card will do. They may not play their super strong action, or they may delay playing their super strong action. That in itself is potentially quite a good thing. You've used the threat of Street Rat to deny them or delay them from playing a particular action, so yeah, just a solid card. So the Lamp, it's just another 1 copy. Search your deck and discard power for the Genie, reveal it and draw it, shuffle your deck and place this card on the bottom of your deck. So yeah, as we suspected, it lets you find Genie, but finding Genie then lets you find Wishes, which is the real engine of the deck, so another very good card. You've got Aladdin that can draw this, and you can just naturally draw this anyway, so you've got a few ways of potentially getting to the Genie. Cave of Wonders, place an action for your discard pile into your hand, so this is directly into the hand, whereas a bill was onto the top of the deck. So it's an action to then get an action back. So if you've had to discard an action, for example with Raja or with Palace Guard, it's just a way of getting them back. So just good recovery there. Search your deck hand or discard pile for Carpet, and play Carpet as an extra character. So it's another, like the Lamp, it's another way of finding a specific minion in the deck. And we've seen Carpet is the one that lets you move minions around or characters around, so pretty solid if you need access to that. I think this is quite a weak action potentially. It's basically a 1 power burst, although potentially it lets you then surprise and move on to a base that they weren't expecting to be able to take. So it's a unique action in terms of what it can do. Lots of potential, but actually if you're not needing to do that burst with the Carpet, potentially quite weak as well. So it's got a high power level, but a low floor as well. And then finally we've got A Friend Like Me. So reveal the top 4 cards of your deck, draw all actions and shuffle the rest into your deck. So this is just solid card draw, helps you fill out some of these engines, so like Jasmine, where you need actions to then play extra actions, Palace-Guard to discard actions, Raja to discard actions, helps you find the wishes quickly as well, so it's just solid in terms of drawing and getting the cards that you need. So that's Aladdin, and already that seems quite good to me. So we saw with Marvel that the factions were generally, I felt, quite strong as a baseline. And it looks, just based on the first faction we've seen, that that's going to be repeating itself here. So yeah, we've got some very, very strong actions, particularly the wishes. Very, very strong, although they do obviously go to the box, so you won't be able to get them back once you've used them. But you get 3 of them, and they do that's potentially drawing 12 cards right there, which is very, very strong. So yeah, that's Aladdin. So let's go to the next one. So up next we've got Frozen, and Frozen is a medium complexity faction, and it says here if you want to build a snowman, the Elsa card will help fetch and play the Olaf, Marshmallow and Snowgy cards, and can often strengthen them. The Anna, Kristoff and Sven cards will find each other, while many of your action cards assist in setting up your hand and discard powerful and effective turns. So this is a medium complexity faction. So let's see what we've got here. So the power 2 minion, Snowgy. If one of your characters here has 5 or more power, place a +1 power counter on this character. So you always want to be playing this as power 3. Why would you play this as power 2? With no effect, basically. So you always want to be targeting this on a base where you've got a power 5 minion, or a minion that has 5 or more power. So yeah, that's obviously going to mean that the base that's on will break quicker. So if you've got a big engine minion, and most factions only have 1 power 5 minion, so in a fairly standard deck you'll often have 2 power 5 minions, so you've not got many targets for Snowgy. And I assume, yeah, so there's 4 Snowgies, which means that you'll often have to play this in advance of having played your power 5 minion, which means that this will just be a power 2 minion more often than not. And if you do have a power 5 minion already in play, that then means that the base that you're playing onto will break faster, and generally the power 5 minions are ones that you want to have stick around because they're usually quite strong. So already I can see that you want to pair this with a faction that has lots of ways of getting to power 5 minions without actually necessarily being the king minion. So factions that have power 4s that can just add a power counter, factions that have power 3s that can become power 5s, factions with just power counter plays in general, just so you can make best use of these Snowgies, so that you don't have to waste your king minion play to then enable these Snowgies. So yeah, fairly basic. Looks like I've got some slight colour disfiguration there in terms of the difference between them. But yeah, seems like quite a weak minion. So we've got Olaf, power 3 minion, and again it's another unique minion type. So talent, look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You may place any number of them into your discard pile, return the rest in any order. So look at the top 2 cards of your deck. You may place any number of them into. So basically, you can willingly or optionally discard cards from the top of your deck, basically to run through your deck faster. So if you want to find a particular card in a certain matchup, Olaf will let you discard cards to then make your deck smaller so that you're more likely to draw into that particular card or those particular cards that you're looking for. So it has some utility. Without seeing anything else so far, this seems quite weak, but I'm guessing there will be some way of playing into that fact that you're discarding cards and being able to retrieve them, and I think that's what it said on the divider anyway. So we've got Sven, who's another standalone power 3 minion. Talent, move one of your characters to the space, or search your deck and or discard power for Kristoff, reveal it, draw it, and shuffle your deck if you searched it. So mobility, letting you move your minions to Sven's base, or searching your deck and discard power for Kristoff, which I assume is going to be power 4, or yeah, it's going to be at least one of the power 4 minions, so having ways of getting to your better minions quickly is always really, really good. And this one obviously lets you search your deck or discard pile again, so being able to recover it as well, even better. So until we see Kristoff, we don't really know how powerful this is, but just the fact that you can move characters to the space is quite good. Lets you spread out and then do a bit of a converge play on Sven's base. So we've got the other power 3 minion, which is Marshmallow. Ongoing, if Elsa is here, this character has +2 power. So again, I'm guessing Elsa's going to be a power 4 or power 5 minion. So this is just a way of, I suppose, swarming onto one base with your big power minions and then breaking those bases quickly. fairly standard, there's not much to talk about here. Generally, you don't want abilities that are dependent on one particular card, because again, Marshmallow is only as valuable as... this ability is only good when you've got Elsa in play, otherwise it's just a blank power 3. So again, it's another card that's dependent on your high power minions, so we'll have to see if there's ways of searching out your power 5 minions or increasing the power of your minions in this faction. And already, this character has +2 power if Anna and or Sven are here. So Sven lets you search for Kristoff. Kristoff then comes down as a power 6 minion on Sven's base, or on Anna's base. Talent, search your deck and or discard power for Anna or Sven, reveal it and draw it. So Sven and Kristoff are kind of a looping pair in that if you have one you can always find the other. And Kristoff also has the added utility of finding Anna as well. And here we have Anna as the other power 4, search your deck and discard power for Elsa or Kristoff, reveal it and draw it, shuffle your deck if you search it. So, on-play effect of being able to actually find Elsa, which is your power 5 minion, or Kristoff again, so multiple ways of getting to Kristoff. And then you can get to the Elsa card, which is obviously a minion, that's really good. Shuffle your deck if you searched it. Ongoing Euro characters here cannot be destroyed by other players' cards. So that's just quite versatile, it's quite useful in terms of there is quite a lot of destruction in the game. We've seen here that we've got a lot of unique minions that you may want to keep in play, and just having not global, but having protection from destruction from all players' cards, not just actions or minions, is going to be quite strong. And then finally we've got Elsa, the king minion. Talent, play Olaf or a Snowgie from your hand or discard pile as an extra character, or place Marshmallow into your hand from your discard pile. Okay, so we've got ways of getting to Elsa. So basically it's a chain. So you start with Sven, or Kristoff, you get to Anna, you then get Anna to Elsa, and then finally, once you've got that chain done, you can then start to abuse the generally snowy characters, the Olaf, Snowgie and Marshmallow characters. So it lets you get Marshmallow back from your discard pile into your hand, so basically you've got the option there to play another power 5 minion down with Elsa. Or you can play Olaf, which lets you discard cards and get back through your deck. I assume you want to target your Snowgies then, and then this lets you play your Snowgies or your Olaf down as an extra character. So, quite strong. They'll come down as power 3s, so it lets you swarm on the base, but then obviously, as I was saying before, that base will then break quickly, so you then need to do the whole chain again. It seems quite convoluted to try and get back to Elsa, so I can see this being quite a slow deck potentially. So you've got to let it go, the famous line from Frozen, or the famous song from Frozen. Look at the top 3 cards of your deck, draw one, place the rest in your discard pile, and or on the top of your deck in any order, so you don't have to do the discard if you don't want to. So it's basically look at the top 3, draw 1, potentially discard 2, so it's kind of like a pseudo draw 3 if you didn't want those 2 cards anyway. Quite weak. And you've got 2 copies of Let It Go. Lock the Gates, base modifier, first one we've seen of them. Ongoing, your characters here cannot be destroyed by other players' cards. So again, it's similar to Anna in that you provide some destruction to your characters on bases. Talent, look at the top card of your deck, discard it or return it. So again, similar to Olaf, just lets you go through your deck quickly. So you potentially want to play this this faction with another faction with lots of recovery, so the classic would be zombies obviously in terms of discarding your cards, getting through your deck quickly, putting your good stuff in the discard pile and then playing them as extra plays. You want to build a snowman, play Olaf, Marshmallow or Snowgie from your discard pile as an extra character. That seems quite weak unless you're playing Marshmallow specifically onto Elsa's base, but if you've already got Elsa, then you could always just use this talent to get this effect anyway, so it's Elsa's talent basically. Apart from maybe the Marshmallow bit, which lets you just place into your hand, so this skips just for the Marshmallow bit, but this card seems quite weak, as you want to try and get to Elsa anyway and keep Elsa in play, and then it just lets you play. If you don't have Elsa in play, it's just basically playing power 2, which is going to be your most common thing as an extra minion, so that seems quite weak. Act of True Love, destroy one of your characters to play another character from your discard pile as an extra character. Destroy one of your characters to play another character from your discard pile as an extra character, so that's really, really good. There's no power restriction on this, so you could destroy a power 2 Snowgie and then play a power 5, or even play your King Rex from the discard pile. So this is very, very good. the fact that it doesn't have to be power equal to or less than, which is the common restriction on an action like this, means that that is excellent. And it means you can go a bit more carefree with what you're discarding from your deck as well, using Olaf, and lock the gates as well, because you've always got this potentially as a way of accessing a really strong minion that you may discard. Search your deck and or discard pile for a character. Shuffle your deck if you searched it. If the card is power 3 or less, play it as an extra character, otherwise discard it. So this is the... there's 2 copies of this. So search your deck and or discard pile actually, so that's quite strong as well. So it lets you, again, more access to stuff that you've discarded previously. And there's quite a lot of good power 3 minions in the game. The classic is obviously Invader, playing it again. And it lets you search your deck for an Invader, and then the other one lets you recover it from your discard pile. So yeah, unbelievably good target for this card, but there are other, really good power 3 minions as well. It lets you play it as an extra character, so it's just extra plays. So a solid card there. So you've got Hand's Vestergaard. Each player reveals a character from their hand, or reveals their hand to show it has no characters, or reveal characters are shuffled into their owner's deck. So another, similar to the Aladdin one that lets you forces players to discard actions, this one shuffles characters back in from other players' hands, which is potentially very, very strong. There are lots of factions that rely on burst plays, for example. Think, robots or halflings. There's factions like ninjas that rely on cards like shinobis. Just generally, playing characters and playing minions is how you're going to break bases, that's how you win the game. So shuffling all revealed characters... it's each player reveals a character from their hand. Okay, so it's not all the characters from someone's hand, it's just one. So not as good as I initially first thought from reading this card. But it's still quite strong. It's disruption. If someone happens to only have one character in their hand that they've been holding, you can shuffle that back in. Either way, it's going to be disruptive, and yeah, I quite like that. So you've got Frozen Port, another base modifier. Other players cannot play their first character each turn here if they can play it on another base. So other players cannot play their first character each turn here if they can play it on another base. So potentially it's a way of completely locking out a base. So for factions that don't have extra character plays, they have to play their first character on another base. So whichever base you want, you just put Frozen Port down. If you're playing against a faction that has no extra plays, you pretty much win that base, because they've got no way of playing onto it unless they've got some way of moving onto it, and we've seen some movement already. Or they've got, some other way of being able to get their character onto those bases. This is really strong and incredibly disruptive. And if you combine this with something like Eliza from Princesses, where you can't play more than one extra card, incredibly disruptive. So yeah, really interesting action, that one. And discard a card to place a character from your discard pile into your hand. So I think you would take that trade any day of the week. So discarding a Snowbee, for example, or discarding a card you don't need right now, or even just discarding a card that you can get back anyway with one of your other minions in this faction, to take any character from your discard pile and put it into your hand. So again, really great way of trading a Snowbee in for a power 5 minion, for example, so very strong. This faction is probably one that I would need to play to actually understand how good it is, because it seems to have... The Snowbee's not very good, and that's obviously a card that's in your minion you're going to see the most, and it seems quite convoluted to get through to something like Elsa and your big minions, particularly if you're obviously playing with another faction. You're going to see these cards less, so actually getting the chain to work, getting the Sven into Kristoff, into Anna, into Elsa is going to be even more difficult when you dilute the deck down with another faction's cards. It has got some really strong actions here, particularly Active True Love, Frozen Port, Big Summer Blowout. It's a good recovery faction. It's also got some quite weak actions as well, like Lock the Gates I think is quite weak, Let It Go is quite weak, so it's a faction that I think has quite weak cards but some very strong cards as well, and it's probably going to end up somewhere in the middle of being quite an average power level faction potentially, but some really strong cards, some really unique cards that we haven't seen before as well, so quite promising. So up next we've got Wreck-It Ralph, and it says, let the race commence. Penelope von Schweetz and the other races' cards can get stronger as they move from the base to base, while King Candy disrupts others' plans. The Wreck-It Ralph, Fix-It Felix Jr., And Sergeant Calhoun cards can use Cybug, Infestation, and many other base modifiers to set things up for yourself and wreck things for your opponents. So it's going to be a movement, play and base sort of faction. So complexity medium again. It did say Frozen was complexity medium, but I suspect that might be slightly more complex than medium, probably medium to high for Frozen, just with the sort of convoluted chain that you have to go through. So let's have a look at some of these cards. Now this is another one that I'm not familiar with. I've never seen Wreck-It Ralph, so I have no idea about some of these characters. So first up, you've got your Sugar Rush Racer, and 4 copies of this, standard for Power 2. First 2 factions we've seen, they actually had quite different power structures in terms of they didn't just follow the flat same minion for Power 2, same minion for Power 3, same minion for Power 4, and then a King minion. They've had a lot of unique minions in this, and I assume that's just because of the property that they do have a lot of characters in each of these sort of films that they want to try and squeeze them all in if they can, or at least the big ones. So, ongoing, after you play a base modifier, you may move this character to or from that base to give it +1 power until the end of the turn. So, you play a base modifier on another base, and then your Sugar Rush racers that are on other bases, they all converge on that base, and then you've suddenly gone from no power on that base to 12 power on that base, so quite strong. The fact that it's until the end of the turn is obviously limiting, so you want to be doing this to trigger a certain base break or a power spike onto a certain base, rather than just generally triggering this and then moving it and then letting that power go at the end of the turn for not having achieved anything. Unless you particularly want to move this off a base, there may be some reason why you don't want this on the original base that you played it on, just to move it to a different base to then, target that base or then save it on that base. Maybe you've got a base modifier there that helps protect those minions, so you can move them to there to protect them and then move them off later when you're ready. So we've got Sergeant Calhoun. Oh, and there's actually 3 of these, so this is following the standard power structure so far. So talent, if you have a base modifier here, your other characters currently here gain +1 power until the end of the turn. So play a base modifier down. I assume that's not going to be difficult with this faction, given that it seems to be a base modifier faction. Basically, just give all your other characters here +1 power until the end of the turn. So that's really strong. Now obviously there's 3 of them, so that would stack. So potentially if you put them all down on the base, +3 power for all your other characters. 2 of them would, these would all get +2 from the other talents. So yeah, that seems really, really strong. Now obviously you play this down, you play your base modifier, you move your Sugar Rush racers, they all become +2, depending on how many of these you've got. So yeah, a base break out of nowhere. So I can see this as being potentially quite a strong surprise playing faction in terms of breaking bases, 0 to break point basically. So yeah, that seems quite good. Interesting that they've chosen to use one character for all 3, whereas the other factions, as we've seen, have used different characters. So we've got Vanellope von Schweetz, which is a unique character here. Talon moved this character to the base and place a +1 power counter on it. So it's Wayfinder from Polynesian Voyages, which they started as Power 4s. I don't know why this is starting as Power 3. Considering there's already a card in the game, there's already a precedence for it in terms of it being a Power 4, unless they're now saying that the Wayfinder is a broken card, and admittedly it is a very good card. So I don't know why this one couldn't be Power 4, maybe there's a particular reason, maybe this faction interacts with Power 3 minions potentially, we'll have to see, but yeah, very strong ability, we've seen it before. Fix-It Felix Jr., place a base modifier from your discard pile into your hand, so that's an on-play. Talent, place a base modifier here, on top of his owner's deck. So, potentially this is going to be very synergistic with his own faction if base modifiers are similar to Ancient Incas, where you get an on-play effect as well as an ongoing effect from a number of those base modifiers, so there may be a reason why you want to do this, but obviously it's on anybody's deck, and so you can take any base modifier and put it back on the deck, so if there's a particularly disruptive one, like Frozen Port from Frozen, you can obviously just get rid of that and return it back to their deck, which dilutes their card draw for the following turn as well, which is also quite a strong effect from this, sort of side effect from this as well. And if they put cards on top of the deck, and we've seen that in Aladdin, and I think we saw that in Frozen as well, where you then again just push that card slightly further down, So they may put 2 cards on top of the deck, you then put a base modifier on top, and they don't get to draw one of the cards that they put on top. So yeah, it seems quite strong. It lets you get a base modifier from the discard pile as well. Again, quite reasonable. And then your King minion, Wreck-It Ralph. Talent, play a base modifier here as an extra action, or destroy a base modifier here. So instinctively it seems quite weak for a King minion from what we've seen so far. Playing a base modifier here as an extra action. I'm fully expecting all these the actions in this faction to be base modifiers for this to actually get a lot of value. Or destroy a base modifier here. So that's quite restricted as well, because as soon as obviously you play Wreck-It Ralph down, your opponents aren't going to play base modifiers onto that base. Otherwise, it's just going to get destroyed straight away by Wreck-It Ralph. So yeah, you want to play this down onto a base that already has base modifiers potentially, which you can then destroy, to then get good value from the talent when you can't play an extra action from your hand that turn. But yeah, this seems generally quite weak. Obviously it ties you into pairing it with factions that have lots of base modifiers to get most value from this, whereas some of the other King minions were a little bit more versatile. I'm thinking the Aladdin on that one. So Cybug Infestation, just 1 copy, base modifier, talent, destroy this card and this base. Starting with the player to your left, each player chooses a base and moves all their cards here to there, replace the base normally. So destroy this card, basically destroying a base, which is always really, really strong, because there can be some very problematic bases in the game. Starting with the player to your left, each player chooses a base and moves all their cards here to there. So it lets each player choose their target base. So potentially this is quite a chaotic card. You could end up with multiple base breaks if you've got lots of power on the base that you've chosen to destroy. Everyone scatters to different bases, or a couple of people go to one base, you get a base break. So yeah, quite a disruptive card here. And potentially, I suppose, it lets you get some value from Sugar Rush Racer. So you play this card down, all your Sugar Rush Racers move to here, you destroy this card and this base, and then you move them all to a different base. Although that's after you play a base modifier, so yeah, potentially if you've got other ways potentially playing base modifiers as special, you can then get more than +1 power from your Sugar Rush Racers. But an interesting card. We don't see many base destruction cards in the game. Escape Pod, move up to 2 of your cards from one base to another base. Special, you may play this before a base scores, move 1 of your cards from the scoring base instead of 2. So move up to 2 of your cards from one base to another base. Fairly standard movement type card, but obviously this is for cards, so it's actions or minions. So that's quite strong. We're going to see a lot of base modifiers in this faction, so being able to move both types of card is very strong. And then being able to do it before a base scores as well. So giving you that surprise move from one base to another. Very strong. Oh, and there's 2 of these. So if you need to, you can then move 2 cards by using both your escape pods. Card Bakery, base modifier, if you have a character here, draw a card. That's great. We love to see card draw. It helps get the game flowing, it helps you get into your best cards quicker, and it helps you just execute your faction strategy quicker as well. So you have to have a character here. That's not going to be difficult to do. If you don't have a character there already, you can just move one of your Sugar Rush Racers as soon as you play it, because that lets you do that, and then just draw a card each turn. So you want to keep this in play as long as you can. This base's breakpoint is reduced by 3. Talent, this base's ability cancels until the start of your next turn. So that seems pretty good. Reducing the breakpoint obviously makes it easier for other players to break the base. So you don't want to be playing this necessarily and then going into other players' turns, because then they can abuse the fact that it's now 3, reduced by 3. However, you can cancel the ability on the base, which is a good additional benefit as well. And it's a talent, so you can choose to do that or not if you want to. And there are some bases where the ability is great, some bases where it's not so good. So it's just a nice little extra thing there. Rather than just having a standard base modifier that lets you reduce the base by 3, you've got this little bit of extra benefit as well. So, oh, and there's two of these as well. So yeah, that seems quite strong. King Candy, I'm guessing this is the evil. It seems to be the evil person as an action in each one so far. Base modifier, you may move this card to another base. That's a talent. Choose a character at this card's base until the start of your next turn. the abilities of character modifiers on it are cancelled and power counters on it do not add to its power. So you may move this card to another base, choose a character at this card's base, so the base you've just moved to, until the start of your next turn, so right through their turn. The abilities of character modifiers on it are cancelled, so that's, if you're playing against Cyborg Apes, for example, they often stack a lot of actions on one character, so they would all be cancelled, and power counters on it do not add to its power. So think like a First Mate, for example, where you've stacked a whole lot of power counters on it for a big base-breaking play. So very versatile, lets you target factions that use lots of character modifiers, and also lets you target factions that use power counters. Now, across both those things, that's probably going to cover 85% of the game, so you're always going to get value. Well, I say always, you're most of the time going to get value from King Candy. So that seems quite good. And there are some very, very good character modifiers as well, and lots of factions that rely on power counters. So yeah, very versatile. Try and keep this card in play as long as you can. Maybe use some of your the actions that let you move base modifiers. So yeah, that seems very good. And this is potentially one you might want to return as well, because you play it down, use a talent, return it, and then do it again maybe if you can play it as an extra modifier. So you'd have to draw it, be quite a combination. You have to put it to the top with Fix It Felix Jr., draw it with Cart Bakery, and then play it again with Wreck-It Ralph to try and do it on 2 different characters in a turn. So convoluted, but maybe potential for playing it again. Research Lab Beacon, another base modifier, what we were expecting. Ongoing, if there are 4 or more characters here, destroy this card. Name a faction, move all characters of that faction to here. So it's like, I think it's called Sea Dogs from Pirates, which actually move all of a faction from one base to another. However, this has to have 4 or more characters here. Not necessarily yours, any 4 or more characters. And then you can destroy this card and move all characters of that faction to here. So if someone's trying to do a spread strategy, or they're trying to break multiple bases, you can make them significantly overpay for this base by moving all of their characters from those bases to this base that you played Research Lab Beacon on. So potentially really disruptive. And that's like a thread we've seen through the 3 factions we've looked at so far, is that they have been disruptive in terms of having at least one card that affects characters, affects actions, or in this case affects characters that have already been played. And whenever you can make someone be really inefficient, that's more than likely going to help you progress to win the game, because it's all about efficiency smash up in terms of your plays. You have to try and play as optimally as possible in terms of your characters and your actions. You don't want to waste power where you can, and this one forces another player to waste power. So yeah, potentially very strong. Mince Eruption, choose a base, swap it with a base in the discard pile, or characters from the original base remain. So that seems okay. There are some, as I say, there are some really good bases, some really bad bases. You can just tactically swap a base out. This can be particularly good for where the power on bases varies, so where it isn't maybe a standard like 3-2-1, 3-1-1, 4-2-1 power VP structure. So if you're second, for example, you can maybe try and swap out a ninja base, or swap into a ninja base, which is your classic example for something like that, where you can get a more efficient VP for second place. And then Sugar Rush, I'd fully expect this to be tying in with the Sugar Rush races. Base modifier, talent, move up to 2 of your characters from here to another base, or from another base to here. They each gain +1 power until the end of the turn. So yeah, there is a potential combo here in terms of you play a base modifier down on another base, you Sugar Rush races move, they all gain +1 power, you use Wreck-It Ralph or some other way of playing an extra action, you play down Sugar Rush, and then you do it again, and they move to this base and gain +1 power, and then use the talent on this base to move them to another base, well, 2 of them to another base, and you can potentially use your escape pods as well to help move them, and then they each gain another +1 power. So your Sugar Rush races can go from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 quite easily by the sounds of it. So again, as I was thinking in terms of this faction seems like a good way of going from 0 to breakpoint in one turn. So yeah, they seem quite good. More straightforward than the other 2 factions we've seen so far, so definitely warrants the medium. They have less unique minions, which again I think helps to make things a little bit more straightforward. So this one probably does fit the bill. I think in terms of power, this one's probably average, maybe slightly below average. We've seen some good cards in terms of the the Research Lab Beacon. King Candy seems really quite good. Some situational cards as well, so things like King Candy. Escape Pod is obviously quite good as well. Cyborg Infestation, again, another situational card. Sugar Rush seems really good, but just a weak King Minion, I think, in general. It ties into this faction, obviously, so that's good. However, it's quite restrictive in terms of what you can do, and I think the second part of the ability, again, is quite weak, because people just won't play base modifiers on its base. So next up, we've got Big Hero 6, and again, another medium complexity faction. It says the students at San Francisco Tech's Robotics Lab. I have no idea about Big Hero 6, that's another one I've not seen. They have become a team of heroes to fight the mysterious yokai. This deck uses power counters as swarms of microbots in gear, upgrades, moving around and improving your character's abilities. Use the talents of cards like Hero Hamada to turn Baymax, Wasabi, and the rest into a formidable fighting force. So, yeah, power counter, swarm type faction by the sounds of it. And it says they're using microbots, so potentially playing into the original OG robots microbots from way back 10 years ago. So some very late synergy partners coming in for the robots at this stage. So we've got Hero Hamada, and I just very quickly scanned through, so I don't know why this one's on the front when I unwrapped it, because it doesn't seem like it's the Power 2 minion, so we'll start with the Power 2s. There's 4 of them. Microbot Swarm, place a Microbot Swarm from your discard pile into your hand, so as soon as you play it you can get another one back, so hence the Swarm. Talent, place a +1 power counter on this card. So that seems really, really good. So there's 4 of them. Chances are that you maybe had one in the discard pile already. You play another one down, you get that one straight back, and you just keep on looping them. You potentially always want to keep one in hand to then be able to get back another one, to then get back another one, and get back another one, and so on. However, placing a +1 power counter on this card every single turn is really, really good and very, very scary. It reminds me of Spartan from Mythic Greeks, where you can just let it sit on a base and just grow. And if your opponents don't deal with it, you will very quickly be breaking the base very efficiently. And as I was saying about Wreck-It Ralph, it's all about being efficient in Smash Up. So yeah, that seems really good. And I don't see why it wouldn't work as a microbot for robots, because they just have microbot in the name. So potentially some very, very scary combination here with the robots. You've got Hero Hamada. Talent, place a +1 power counter on a character here, or move any number of power counters from one of your characters to another. So talent, place a +1 power counter on a character here, so that's just really really good. Solid ability. We've seen for Mad Scientists, I can't remember the name of it, the Power 3 minion there, but that just basically adds a +1 power counter to another minion, and that's on play, that's not even a talent. So the fact that you have this as a talent now is exceptional. It's like Hair Doctor, in fact, in terms of its ability, so yeah, that is Hair Doctor. Although actually it's on a character here, I think Hair Doctor was anywhere, but it's still pretty good. Or move any number of power counters from one of your characters to another, so that's tying in also with Kung Fu Fighters in terms of moving power counters around. So yeah, versatility in the talent, that seems exceptionally strong. Already another great pairing for the Great Wolf Spirit, but yeah, that seems really good. And this one, the faction, again, seems really quite unique in terms of its minion structure, because we've seen the 4 power 2 minions, but this all looks like power 3s. So Go-Go to Mago, talent, move this character to another base, and if this character has any power counters, you may also move another one of your characters from here to there. So move this character to another base, and if this character has any power counters, so potentially quite easy to get from Hero Hamada, so you play it on Hero Hamada's base, you give it power counter, then you move this character away. You may also move another one of your characters from here to there, so potentially you just keep these 2 together and move them around as a power unit and let things grow. As soon as the base gets too close to breaking, you move them away and you start again, and you retain this engine basically. So yeah, it seems really strong, and another very versatile card as well. Honey Lemon, talent, destroy a base or character modifier here. If this character has any power counters, you may instead play an extra action. So again, another talent, the fact that you can do this over and over again, really, really strong. And again, you can combo this with Honey Lemon with Go-Go Tamago, and you can move this from the base, destroy a character modifier or a base modifier there, and just keep doing that every turn. Keep moving them around and just target. So this is a really hard counter to factions like big hero, like Wreck-It Ralph, sorry, which rely on base modifiers, you can just start to really get this engine rolling with Go-Go Tamago and Honey Lemon and just absolutely neutralize their threat, basically. So yeah, seems really, really strong. And additional versatility in terms of being able to play an extra action as well. So yeah, seems exceptionally strong. I can see why they're all power 3 in terms of the abilities on them more than make up for the fact that they're a base power 3. You know, they're the sort of abilities you'd see on power 4 and power 5 minions. Baymax, your other characters here, this is ongoing, are not affected by other players' cards. So universal protection on one base for all of your characters, sorry, so not all of your cards, but against other players' cards for your characters. Special, after this base scores, if this character has any power counters, move another one of your characters from here to another base. So you give Baymax a power counter and it lets you save a character. You can then push a character from the scoring base to another base, and that could be a Microbot Swarm that has 10 power counters on it. So it's sort of like a first mate. This lets another minion become a first mate for just one turn, which seems really strong. Fredrickson the Fourth. Talent, draw a card, and this character has any power counters. You may also give another character here -2 power until the start of your next turn. So draw a card as a talent, you love to see it. Seems quite straightforward. Well, I say it seems quite straightforward, but we've only seen Hero Hamada that gives any other characters +1 power counters so far. So based on what we've seen, it's not straightforward, but I assume there's going to be lots of ways of giving power counters to minions in the action slots. So talent, draw a card. As I mentioned before, drawing a card is amazing. It lets you go through your deck quicker to find your better cards, and it just lets your engine get rolling quicker and more smoothly. So we love drawing cards in Smash Up. And you can also give another character here -2 power until the start of your next turn. So we don't see many ways of reducing other players' minions' power, and it just means that you can potentially go from second to first, for example, because you can maybe increase the power of one of your minions and decrease the power of one of theirs, and that's a power swing without actually having to do anything in terms of playing extra minions, for example. So yeah, -2 power can be quite good. It can also bring things into range as well, so let's not forget that in terms of a power 5 minion becoming a power 3, and then the power 3 minion can be destroyed by something like Seeing Stars. And then lastly, we've got Wasabi. Talent until the end of the turn. So note the wording until the end of the turn rather than until the end of your turn. So potentially there might be a way of actually playing this talent outside of your turn. This character gains +1 power, or all +1 power for each +1 power counter on it, up to 5 more power. So talent until the end of the turn, this character gains +1 power. So as a baseline, it's talent +1. Or +1 power for each +1 power counter on it, up to 5 more power. So if Wasabi has 5 power counters on it, it's a power 8, and then this talent lets it go to power 13. So yeah, potentially very, very strong. Just, it could be up to +5 power. It's unlikely, because the base it's on probably already broken, but yeah, it's just a way, I suppose, of cheating out an extra minion player without actually playing the minion by, playing an extra 3, 4, or 5 power through Wasabi's talent. So, seems quite good. Suggests there's going to be lots of ways of adding power counters to it. So Yokai, base modifier, ongoing. Characters here without power counters here. Characters without power counters here have -1 power. So potentially all of your opponent's minions and not yours. Special, after this base scores, you may move a +1 power counter from each of your characters here to other characters. After this base scores, you may move a +1 power counter from each of your characters here to other characters. Okay, interesting. So it lets you move them to your opponent's characters, which potentially can let you score another base once this base is scored. There may be fringe cases where you want to do that, where maybe you're getting enough points from second place on that base for it to break and you to win the game. And for them to get first is irrelevant because they won't win the game from getting first. So potentially a way of, cheating out an extra base or as I say, gaining some extra VP from doing that. However, you're mostly going to be doing this to move +1 power counters from your characters to your other characters on other bases. So yeah, a +1 power counter from each of your characters here. So it's about spreading the power counters around, and then moving them all to another character potentially. So each of your characters here to other characters. So you can move them all to one. They don't have to go one-to-one to other characters, for example. So potentially quite good. Probably one that I need to play to actually understand how good it is. But just as a baseline, lets you potentially move, 4 or 5 power from your characters at a base to another character. Microbot Maker. Base modifier, place a +1 power counter on each of your characters here. Solid. Talent, place a +1 power counter on one of your characters here. Again, very solid. So this is one potentially that you would combo with Wreck-It Ralph, for example, with the one that the Power 4 minion, Fix It, or whatever it's called, that lets you return a base modifier that's already in play back to the top of someone's deck, the player's deck, basically. So you would return this deck, play it down again, +1 power counters for all your minions there. So it's quite a strong on-play effect, this base modifier. The talent's fine. It lets you just obviously place a +1 power counter, and you're going to be targeting the other minions here. So the Wasabi, the Fred Fredrickson, the Honey Lemon, the Baymax, the Go-Go Tamago, because they're the characters that cannot generate their own power counters. So you're going to be targeting them with this. Control Mask. I had to double take there because it looks very similar to Yokai. And this is a character modifier, and I think this is the first character modifier we've seen from the first 4 factions. And the text is getting really small. They're cramming a lot onto these cards. That's one thing I've noticed from having gone through them so far, is that you don't have very many straightforward, simple abilities, which might just be one line of text. They're thick text box in terms of, I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 lines of text on a character, which generally, on a card, which generally means there's going to be some complexity to it, as a general rule of thumb. So, play on a non-Microbot Swarm character. So anything but the Microbot Swarm. Search your deck for a Microbot Swarm, reveal it, draw it, and shuffle your deck. Talent, play a Microbot Swarm as an extra character, or move any number of Microbot Swarms from here to here or from here. So let me just check that. So it lets you find a Microbot Swarm, which is great. We've already seen that the Microbot Swarm seem to be you sit them on a base and let them grow, and eventually you just break that base very efficiently. And then you can also play a Microbot Swarm as an extra character. So that's really, really good. Extra plays is great, and we've seen that the Microbot Swarm that's the minion you want to be targeting in terms of getting them into play as quickly as you can. Or move any number of Microbot Swarms to here or from here, so you can push them around basically in terms of, okay, we've got too many Microbot Swarms on this base, let's spread them out a bit so that we can break multiple bases. Or we can let them converge from multiple bases to this base and get a base break out of nowhere, similar to Wreck-It Ralph and the Sugar Car Racer minions. Upgrades. Place a total of 2 +1 power counters on your characters, play an extra action. So, just solid. And we've seen this type of action before in Smash Up in terms of just placing power counters down on characters. They usually didn't come with playing an extra action, so that's a sign to me that the power of the game, or the power of this card, is increasing somewhat, in that just having that would potentially have been an action in the past, in terms of playing 2 +1 power counters down on characters. Now they're bundling in an extra action, which is always great. Extra plays are very good. They help combo into big turns, so solid. That's another way of getting power counters on your minions. Control the Swarm. Place a +1 power counter on each of your characters that doesn't have one. Really good. So you try and get as many down as you can, trigger this first, or move any number of your power counters among your characters. So yeah, if it just had the first line of text, it would be a not very good card in terms of you have to play this before you then trigger the talents and before you start utilising your other cards, so there's a sequencing problem with this card. However, it has the versatility of having the extra ability as well. So if you play it early, you get lots of +1 power counters. If you play it late, you can move them around. So good for any time in the game, really. You student, play an extra character of power 3 or less and place a +1 power counter on it. So really solid. Just play an extra character again. Extra plays are how you accelerate your win condition, and it automatically comes out as power 4. So you can play any of these characters that we've seen in this deck. 1, 2, 3. They've got 6 unique power 3 minions. So you can play any of them for free and already get it in terms of its trigger. So all the talents relied on having a power counter on it, so it lets you just come out straight away. Power 4 already can activate the talent. Version 2.0. Choose a base. Each of your characters currently there with power counters gains +2 power until the end of the turn. So again, we've seen similar abilities to this in terms of the Rotary Slug Thrower. No, is it the Rotary Slug Thrower or is it the other one? It's the Steampunk's action, and then also the Ghost's Door to the Beyond, which gives +2 power. Really solid, really good, just general base breaking card this. And we've seen from the stuff we've seen already, the actions and the minions, that getting power counters onto your characters is going to be quite easy. So, and you've got 2 of these. Really good. So you've got 2 base breaking cards, which I think is admittedly is quite unusual. Typically you see this effect on just 1 card in your faction. It's actually a big base break. But seeing it in multiple cards, that's great as well. It lets you be more efficient, I suppose, in terms of you can have a couple of Microbot Swarms on 2 bases, get them to a certain power level, give them +4 power from these, and then break a couple of bases on consecutive turns. Team effort, choose a base, draw a card for each of your characters there with power counters. So, we've seen this ability before as well, so it's just solid card draw. And again, this seems like a really good package in terms of you've got the power counters, you've got the card draw, and you've got the movement potential as well, and you've got the base breaking effect. So this generally seems very strong. I would agree that it seems to be a medium complexity faction. It's quite straightforward in terms of you just try and get characters down, play power counters on everything, and then use the talents to exploit those power counters and just generally accelerate your win condition. The talents, the fact that there's 6 unique power 3 minions, and the fact that you've got loads of versatility in the talents, that's going to add some complexity, but this seems like a really strong package. I think this is certainly the strongest of the 4 factions we've seen so far.